This is Luke Paulson, the Catholic Conservative, and welcome to the news of the week for November 29th, 2025. And if you enjoy these videos, do not forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe for more. Just follow the science. Ever since 2020, liberals have had a dangerous mantra: follow the science. Now, science actually starts and ends with the funding. As such, we need to The official website for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention now says something very interesting about vaccines. Previously, the website said that there was no data connecting vaccines and autism. Now the webpage says that saying there is no link has not been studied. We just found out that Tylenol can cause autism if it is absorbed in utero. I wonder if any of the myriad chemicals in the childhood vaccines can do the same. Now that all of that has been said, I have two follow-up questions. What type of drug have Democrats and the fake news outlets been going out of their way to get us to take? Furthermore, what type of drugs are mandated for children to enter into government schools? Speaking of government schools, let us see how the battle to shut down the Department of Education is going. Death of the DOE. Some people are saying that this federal agency needs to be shut down, but I instead say,
shut them all down, hurry!
The Department of Education has a lot of illegal responsibilities. As part of shutting down this wretched monstrosity, these responsibilities should go back to the states. But for the time being, the responsibilities are going to other illegal federal agencies. Naturally, those need to be shut down as well. But we cannot fix more than 200 years worth of corruption overnight. Something that I wish Rand Paul and the rest of the libertarians would learn. Now, while we are talking about liberals protecting children, let us talk about some of these handouts. Dead people get SNAP. Before the Schumer shutdown was even a thing, the Trump administration asked for SNAP information from the states to look for fraud. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins revealed that 186,000 deceased people are getting handouts, and 500,000 people are getting double benefits. This is just the data that was sent from 29 states. Primarily from red states. This fraud might not account for all of the illegals, especially in sanctuary cities. So first, the welfare queens were upset that they could not buy their chips and soda. Now the Democrats are upset that checks might not go to dead people. The latter reminds me of something else that I am not allowed to talk about. Moving on, this is why people needed to reapply for these handouts. This is something that should be done every few years. After all, it is not their money. It is the money that was robbed from people who actually pay taxes. There are a lot of children who would starve without this help. But the people who do not need anything bloat the system. Now the HHS is also moving to protect children, sometimes from their parents. HHS Protects Children. Maybe I am naive, but removing healthy organs from a child is not just creepy and unnecessary. It is also medically abusive and should be illegal. But what would I know? I am just a cynic who makes online content. Moving on, we know that these surgeries, despite being medically unnecessary, make a lot of money for the hospital.
These surgeries make a lot of money. So female to male chest reconstruction can bring in $40,000. A patient just on routine hormone treatment, who I'm only seeing a few times a year, can bring in several $1,000s, so that requires a lot of visits and labs. It actually makes money for the hospital. The female to male bottom surgeries, these are huge money makers. Again, I think this has to be an underestimate that they're quoting around $20,000 for a phalloplasty. There's been different things that I've read that said it could be up to $100,000. Dr. Winokur, who's our surgeon, says that there's entire clinics where the entire clinic is supported just by their phalloplasties, and that is like a fraction of the surgeries that they're doing. These surgeries are labor intensive, they require a lot of follow-ups, they require a lot of OR time, and they make money. They make money for the hospital.
There's nothing wrong with doctors making money as long as they do no harm. A new peer-reviewed study from the Department of Health and Human Services found consequences such as infertility or sterility, sexual dysfunction, impaired bone density accrual, adverse cognitive impacts, cardiovascular disease, metabolic disorders, psychiatric disorders, surgical complications, and regret. 9 experts, including physicians, found no fault in the report. I would like to point out that this is the very thing that the so-called religious right has been saying for years, which is what happens when you follow the science, and not ideology or politics. Children need to be protected and nurtured by truth, something that AI is severely lacking in. AI is not a toy. I have said repeatedly that artificial intelligence is a tool. It can be used for good or evil. However, it is also based on the internet, which means that it is not safe for most children. Would you let them have unfettered access to the internet? Especially to the cesspool that is social media? Of course not. However, new toys are coming with AI. Even if AI were not a new technology that is still highly experimental, this would still be a red flag. A teddy bear was pulled after it engaged in conversations that were barely appropriate for adults, let alone small children. Since this is a family channel, I will not be saying it explicitly. However, I will say that it involves Bravo Delta Sierra Mike. If you know, you know. Mattel was going to include this technology in Barbie dolls, but that has reportedly been pulled. We are walking a dangerous path and parents need to be cautious. Children need to be protected and nurtured by truth, something that the internet is severely lacking in. Trolls are identified. During the 2016 election cycle, we were inundated with unsupported claims by the fake news about Russian interference. This continued for years and even into Donald Trump's presidency. Meanwhile, as Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton had given the Russians everything. It is in the nature of our enemies to want America divided to make us easier to take down. England supported the Confederacy, not because of any political or social decision here, because if divided, America would be easier to conquer. The Russians did the same thing and produced memes to target Clinton supporters, and memes to target Trump supporters. The point was to divide us. Now Elon Musk has improved Twitter so that we now see where the person is posting from. Lo and behold, bots are shown in and around India. Now the fake news is up to its old tricks in claiming that they were all MAGA accounts. However, in truth, it was a mix of MAGA and communist blue accounts. The whole point is to divide America. This, combined with the injection of low-skilled labor, makes this even worse. My instinct tells me that the end goal is not just seeding division. Speaking of problematic people, let us go over to Minnesota. No special treatment for Somalia. There are a lot of dangerous people in this country. Some bring their culture here, and it is completely incompatible with ours. Some people come here from war-torn countries, and I can sympathize with them. However, being in America is not a right. It is barely even a privilege. It is an honor, awarded to so very few. People from these countries often get temporary protective status or TPS, if it is not safe to deport them back to their country of origin. President Trump has ended deportation protections for countless Somalis living in Minnesota. He specifically cited massive money laundering. This all is happening to the surprise of no one at all in the home state of failed vice presidential hopeful Tim Walz. America is not a lost country. Yet. But we do have several failed cities. Chicago is a lost city. Have you ever wondered why the cities with the most gun laws have the most gun crime? The reason is very simple. The Second Amendment saves lives. However, it is not just street gangs. It is also corrupt judges. While I cannot say for a fact that Judge Teresa Molina Gonzalez was paid off by George Soros, we cannot rule that possibility out. Either way, she might just be another corrupt judge who let a violent offender out dozens of times. And this thug, whom I will not name, set Bethany McGee on fire after previously dousing her in what appeared to be gasoline. This is just so painful to write about. This catch and release of dangerous criminals is not safe for anyone. The arsonist is reportedly behind bars, and I can only hope that this judge fears the people enough to keep him there. In an ideal world, the judges who let this happen would share the same sentence as the perpetrators whom they freed. Speaking of failed cities, let us go over to New York. Mamdani is short of funds. Zohran Mamdani is a self-proclaimed communist. However, until he is officially mayor of this once great city, he cannot take the money by force. Until then, he has to ask for the money. So far, he has gotten half of the $4 million that he needs for his transition expenses. Like most communist leaders, he will probably squander it. He still has a lot of promises to fulfill, and very few rich people left to tax. His whole plan is falling apart faster than the Berlin Wall with a sledgehammer. He hopes very soon to not have to ask for money, because then he will just take what he wants. I have no good things to say. Fear what Mamdani will do with power. as much as Democrats fear legal power, denying lawful orders. There are a lot of things that the military and intelligence agencies do that are illegal and unconstitutional. However, as outlined in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, if an order is unlawful, the soldier has a legal obligation to disobey it. This is limited to targeting civilians, falsifying documents, theft, or assault. Skip forward to the present day, and we have Democrats in Congress telling these people to deny orders that they deem lawless. I bet you the Kremlin is probably playing the video on repeat and laughing at it. What orders would these Democrats consider unconstitutional? Probably deporting illegals and blowing up drug dealers. Neither of these matches Article 92 of the UCMJ. Now, while orders can be denied, the crux of this goes back to Trump derangement syndrome. I would also like to point out that soldiers who denied an unlawful order to get a certain drug were quickly terminated without mercy. Now, government agents ultimately work for you and me. However, sometimes they try to work for the deep state.
So how do you define it?
Well, the way I would define the deep state is an increased willingness by more and more government civil servants to pursue political objectives rather than stand up for the values of the institution they're a part of. They are not neutral. They're not politically neutral.
So let us see what President Trump is doing to hopefully dismantle large portions of the deep state. DOGE cuts are permanent. When Congress first introduced the penny, they did not decide how many would be produced. Instead, they gave the job to the Mint to determine how many would be made. The president, as head of all federal agencies, determined that no new pennies would be minted. It is the same with federal funding. Congress appropriates so much money to a department or agency, and the president oversees that money as he sees fit. The Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 decision that the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE cuts, can be made permanent. This means that whole federal programs can be wiped out very quickly. Naturally, with fewer illegal programs, this means fewer employees are needed to oversee said illegal programs. In the end, the American people win because there's less inflation. Also, there are more jobs for the fired workers since the illegals are being deported. Also, with the blessing of the Supreme Court. Speaking of courts, President Trump has had a major victory. Donald Trump is free. Over the last decade, Donald Trump has had one persecutor.
Don't you mean prosecutor? No!
After another. Now, I want you to remember that the official narrative is that the 2016 election was stolen, but the 2020 election was the most secure election in American history. When President Trump called to ask for an investigation in Georgia, he was charged with trying to overturn the election. District Attorney Fani Willis tried to get him on these charges, but failed. She was taken off the case because she had an inappropriate workplace relationship, and may have tried to hide it with embezzled funds. After she was removed from the case, another attorney took the reins. As a result, he got to make a lot of the calls that she was making. And this new attorney decided not to pursue charges against a president for just questioning the results of an election. Now with that, I think that President Trump does not have any active persecutions.
Maybe I'm just blowing smoke. Maybe I'm completely off my rocker, but that is just my opinion. And do not forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe for more. But before you go, on the left I have last week's video, but you may also enjoy the video on the right.